All right, ready? Good evening, everyone. A beautiful summer night here in Prescott. December 9th, we're going to call the meeting to order. First things first, for the agenda, we have we're going to amend the agenda because we have a municipal significant event designation. The Eastern Ontario Senior Hockey League is having an all-star event here in Prescott, which is a major kudos for us on January 11th. So we need to pass a motion tonight so that they can have the event take place. So the motion is that the agenda for the council meeting of December 9th, 2024 be approved as amended. Can I get a mover and seconder? Councillor Young, Councillor McConnell, all in favor? Thank you. Before we move on, I just want to thank Deputy Mayor Burton, who ran our meeting for us last week, did a great job. Thank you, Councillor. And she's zooming in tonight, just so everyone knows. And no members in the audience, so that's good. Any declarations of interest tonight?
Fair weather.
Fair weather. Seeing none, we're going to move forward. We did have a presentation tonight. We're still going to recognize Dion Wilcott. He works in our water department, and will be celebrating 15 years of service tonight. So he's not here today, so I'll make a point of going around and taking him this and probably a few donuts or something from somewhere in town. But he's going to have that nice pin. If you got one pin, good. One pin today. I'll never live that one down from Bob when I had to give him 2 pins to add up to his years. No delegations tonight, and we're just going to do the council minutes from last meeting. So the motion is that the council minutes dated December 2nd be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Kirkby, Councillor Campbell. Anything to add to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Under communications and petitions, we have two items. The first one was a letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on additional residential units. And the second was request for appointments to the LGLDHU Board of Health. Is there any discussion on either of those topics? No? Okay. Does anyone going to run for the appointment on the Board of Health? I think the way I read it, we alternate with Brock.
We alternate, and I talked to Matthew about this when it came up. The other person in our group, she stepped forward and said she'd be willing to do it. And I was very grateful, Anne Marie. And we will come back. It'll come back around to us. Brock will step down this time too.
Okay.
And because they had 2 that are willing to do it, and we'll still get all the same information.
Get the info. Great.
There's going to be a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, I'm sure, especially with a new designation. Councillor McConnell?
Thanks, Mayor Shankar. Actually, I'd like to step back a minute if I can to the letter from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on additional residential units. They reference in that letter the Environmental Registry of Ontario posting 019-9210. I was curious about that. We do have but we do have some brownfields in our area. And I know when we went to build our fire hall in the residential units, we found some contamination that we had to look up. I tried to look up this Environmental Registry Ontario posting, blah, blah, blah. But all I got was comments on it. I couldn't actually find. So if we could, I would like to give direction to our staff to have a look at this if they can find it and see if that actually might pertain to anything here that we would run into.
Do we know that offhand, Mr. Armstrong?
So you can only put it on the environmental registry, which only pertains to additional residential. So that is an area where they put for comments, that sort of thing. And it's really encompassing of what the letter says. So there is no environmental impact. It's simply, that's when they were putting the changes for feedback and comment that is noted in the letter.
So I guess that's a comment on the government. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent reports. 8.1 is a council information package. That all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented unless we're going to take something out. So before we do that, you want to take something out? You want to move the motion?
Well, fine, move the motion.
Move the motion, Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Any discussion on it? No? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried, thank you. No committee reports. In terms of the mayor report, I was just looking really quickly here. Since the last meeting that I attended, we had Tri-Council, which I'm sure we spoke about. I met Dana at the ECDev Summit put on by United Counties in Kempville. That was it's always a good affair there. They do a good job. And then we also had a St. Lawrence corridor meeting. The corridor meeting was very fruitful because they talked a lot about the upcoming projects that are going on in Augusta. So Augusta still can't relay all the information because they're still waiting, but it does look very promising from their behalf. And then just last week I was at my daughter's X-ring ceremony. That was great. That's why I missed it here. So one of those proud dad moments you got to go to. So I'm going to move on and start on this side here with Councillor Kirkby on outside boards, committees and commissions.
I haven't really had any meetings to attend. I did inquire about the new traffic lights down on Edward and King, and happy to report that some of the bases are there and the poles that are being relocated, especially on the corner in front of Bob's Restaurant, is being pulled back. So we'll actually gain accessibility there, and we'll be at the standard for the Ontario AODO 60-inch for clear path around the corner. So that pole that's currently there will be gone. And then just the road crew. Last week we had a big snow dump there, and they were out, had the roads cleared, sidewalks were cleared. Then the setup down for the winter wonderland. Right, and I won't talk too much about that, but there's other councillors that will speak more. But I did attend, and just another great event for Prescott. Everything I heard and read on Facebook was nothing but positive. So just another feather in the cap for the town of Prescott. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkby. Councillor Campbell.
No meetings attended, but yes, I attended the Christmas tree lighting with the magic wand. And
That
I
was
don't think
good.
I've seen reindeer in my life. There were reindeer there, so I'm just like, oh. So great event. Lights were really cool, and yeah, well done.
Yeah, you know, speaking of that Christmas down, the pop-ups, the reindeer was a great hit. I know we had amazing photography there. So they were doing all the photographs, and the kids loved that, you know, and Santa and Mrs. Claus looked great. On that note, Deputy Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Pop-ups, like staff, like thank you. It was absolutely amazing. The sponsors as well. Thank you to all the sponsors. Santa and Mrs. Claus rocked it out this year, if I do say so myself. We had over 70 photos taken with Santa, Mrs. Claus, and our live reindeer, which was a great asset. And the fire department was there as well. So thank you for the fire department for taking their time to come out and spread some Christmas cheer. It was well attended, and I was happy that my husband and I could attend as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I didn't attend any meetings, but I have some economic development updates from Dana. The downtown holiday decorating contest was won by Cozy Closet. Second place was Old Magic, and third place was a tie between Lamar on Main and Star Wellness. So it was really nice to see so many businesses participate for sure. And it gave that Christmassy feeling downtown. Again, the pop-ups, the Riverwalk Wonderland was so good. Staff did a great job. And again, as Councillor Burton said, so nice to see the sponsors participating as well. It was a great event. Business development updates, Infinity Storage opened on December 1st and they're located at 898 Florence Street. And the 2025 event schedule is in development and Dana promises some new events coming in 2025. So that's something to stay tuned for. And a reminder that the Holiday Shop Local campaign is running now. And one note about the BIA meeting is canceled for tomorrow night. And that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I have nothing in the way of council to report, but I did read something on Facebook today that I got to share with you because it hit right in the heart. It said, once you hit a certain age, life is just a delicate balance of trying to stay awake and trying to fall asleep while slowly getting worse at both. And that's very true, quite frankly, that I found as I age. And given the fact that this is our last meeting of the year, certainly our last meeting before Christmas as well, I'd like to take the opportunity to wish my fellow councillors, our staff, and members of the community a very Merry Christmas and all the best in the new year. In particular, our public works staff who in the coming months are going to be called to work in the middle of the night and in inclement weather, and who we depend on greatly, not only just in the summer all year, but in particular in the winter. So many thanks for your efforts. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Lockett.
What he said, no.
Yeah, I know.
So I've done a couple of things since we last met. Sunday, I attended Steve Clark skating at the ACCC, and it was well attended. All municipalities in the area were there. It was a nice spread, lots of people skating and lots of chatting and visiting and, you know, seeing old friends and stuff. So that was quite nice. And then Wednesday night, I was able to attend the Cadet Squadron, the 661 training night, which was, again, really impressive. Like, these young people they're dedicated, they're disciplined. They awarded some coins and stuff to adults, but also some of the kids. And it was just, they were talking about maybe not having enough money to do some sessions and stuff like that. So I called Councillor Kirkby and he gave me the information on the community grants, and I gave them our card and said, I think they'd fall into that category. So that was really, that was rewarding. And I did go down on Saturday to the Riverwalk too. And like half of North America, I like to watch the Hallmark shows. And I think the Riverwalk would be a really good setup for a Hallmark. And if we have any insight into how to do that, we should maybe approach them. But it would just look like a Hallmark movie down there.
Mhm.
So that's all I've got.
That's about as close as I come to a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. You don't know what you're missing.
Oh. Mhm. We'll move on, eh? That's why we have 2 TVs in our house.
Football gotta end soon.
Soon. Something else will start.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna move on to some staff reports. We're trying to move this along as the weather is not the best. 12.1 is staff report 96-2024, branding and marketing strategy request for proposal award. So the motion is that council directs staff to award the tender for the branding and marketing strategy request to Alphabet Creative in the amount of 58,000 plus applicable taxes. Can I get a mover and seconder for discussion? Councillor Young, Councillor Lockett. Oh, sorry, Leanne, I'll get you. And Dana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar, through you to council. We've had a very exhaustive process when it came to these award of our branding and marketing strategy request for proposal. It was issued in October 21st, 2024. And we received a total of 34 proposals, 33 of which were deemed eligible that made it through to the initial review process. And of those, there were 8 that were selected for a follow-up review and interview. So we interviewed 8 consultants, 3 of which were shortlisted from there. And from that point, we contacted their references, all of which had very positive references, but we felt at the end of the day that Alphabet Creative was really the best fit for the project that we're hoping to complete as part of this. Recognizing that they did come in a little bit higher than the other consultants, but we do feel there are some valid reasons for this and for moving forward with Alphabet. So just quickly, I'll take you through what the evaluation criteria were. So we're overall impression, which was just the general quality and depth of the proposal. Project understanding, I think that's self-explanatory. Team and key personnel qualifications, relevant project experience, the proposed approach, and cost effectiveness. So from a total of the, as I said, of the proposals, we selected 8 and 3 of which were selected to have their reference checks completed. And we felt that Alphabet Creative was the best firm for a number of reasons. First and foremost, their experience. They've got over 20 years experience in developing and executing successful branding strategies for a very broad base of clients, including municipalities, nonprofit organizations, and private firms as well. So we felt that they were well experienced. Some of their clients that we felt were some really good match for us were RTO9, which is our local tourism marketing organization, of which Prescott is a member. City of Kingston and Leeds Grenville County is another one. They've been doing some marketing work in the implementation of their tourism strategy. North Benville and Cornwall, to name just a few. And in fact, we also wanted to highlight that Alphabet actually replaced one of the other 2 shortlisted consultants as the agency of record for one of their existing clients. So we felt that that also demonstrated, really kind of set them above and beyond the other consultants. And their relationship with RTO9, we felt was another big asset as well. I think as, council is aware, Prescott has struggled to find, getting greater presence within the RTO9 marketing. And given that they are the current agency of record, we had an in-depth conversation with the consultant during our interview. And they were really excited about the prospect of working with Prescott for just that reason too. They feel that Prescott has great potential as a tourism asset and should receive greater attention through the RTO9 marketing, and felt that they could really help us achieve that goal through their work. And reputation as well was a very critical factor as well. Feedback from past clients and our reference checks was overwhelmingly positive. In particular, they were praised for their ability to collaborate, as well as just their overall excitement of the project and the fact that they really fully immerse themselves in a project. They come to us, they really help us uncover our brand, and they engage with our businesses, with our community through those focus groups and just through their own research that they're conducting in the background. And they really stressed that when we had that discussion with them. Competitive pricing, although the proposed cost does exceed the project budget, we felt that their pricing structure definitely aligned with the scope of the project and some of the additional benefits that they could deliver on. And timeline and deliverables, they are committed to delivering the final strategy within the required timeline of June 30th, 2025, with specific milestones and deliverables to ensure the progress is tracked as well. That was another real critical piece for us, and not every proposal had that component. And we really feel that the metrics, the ongoing performance measurements, so that we can be reporting back to council the success that we're having with this strategy is really critical. And then location and regional familiarity was another critical factor. The consultant resides in Ottawa, ensuring their ability to provide the in-person services where required. It ensures they're very close to be able to fully immerse themselves in the project. And their regional familiarity based on their previous client portfolio, we felt was another strong asset. And I think one of the other things that they're really going to deliver on is a strategy that is actually successful. That was one of the key factors that we used in our decision as well, was looking at these consultants and some of the example strategies that they have prepared in the past and seeing how successful have the municipalities been with the implementation of that. And we felt that Alphabet Creative had the greatest number of successful strategies. North Grenville, City of Kingston, RTO9, you know, we've seen the evidence of those strategies being implemented and, you know, their visitor market growing, their investment attraction growing and seeing the results in new developments come into their communities. So we felt that was a very critical piece as well. And I think that covers some of the key factors that we used in our decision, and really just wanted to summarize what next steps will be. If approved by council, we would negotiate the contract, of course, finalizing those terms, and we would hold an initial kickoff meeting, hopefully in December, possibly in the new year, depending on scheduling. And then having ongoing communication, regular updates and check-ins with the consultant to ensure that we're staying on track and meeting those timelines. And as far as alternatives, council could decide to modify the recommendation or decline. Financial implications are $58,000. The 2024 projects budget included $50,000 for this initiative, and with the remaining amount to be covered by the 2025 operational budget. And there are no environmental implications. And a copy of the proposal has been attached for council's review. Happy to entertain any questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine. Questions? Councillor Campbell.
Councillor Shankar, would they be potentially running like this, our strategic planning meeting where we would all get around the table?
Yeah, very similar session. You would see a couple of focus groups held, one specifically with council, because having that separate meeting with council is a critical piece because council really is driving this project. And then there would be additional focus groups held with the public, businesses, the general public, and tourism operators as well, really trying to capture that fulsome opinion from the community. And then staff, Prescott staff would be a critical player in the development of the strategy too.
So we wouldn't just be getting updates, which is great.
Absolutely not.
We'd be involved in
You would be directly involved in the creation of that strategy, yes.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Anyone, Councillor Kirkby?
It's okay. Dana, the 58,000, is that kind of a hard number? Do you anticipate, because in their package, they include the rate structure, which is, do you see the job getting done within that 58,000? Are you confident with that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's as far as project overages, we don't really see much potential for that happening. The parameters of the project would be very clearly spelled out in the contract itself. And in the RFP, it was highly detailed as to what those deliverables are. And we don't anticipate making any significant changes to those.
Okay, thank you.
We did request, just to answer, having the rate structure there, we did request they include that because for ongoing implementation, there would be further future product development that may happen down the road. And we wanted to know what the rate structure was of those firms to see if they were, a firm that we could, to be quite frank, afford to work with down the road and ensure that, they are viable, because I think it is important to, to ensure the success of the strategy, to be having that firm there on not retainer per se, but having them available to provide that ongoing support as needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question, Dana. Their timelines, is that how we would pay them, or do we pay them? Like, how do we pay them?
So there would be an initial deposit and then there would be invoices paid throughout the duration. So as they meet project milestones, they would submit invoices. And we would negotiate that as part of the contract when those payment periods occur.
Oh, good. We're just going around the room. Councillor McConnell, then Councillor Young.
Thanks, Mayor Shankar. You mentioned down the road, Dana, anything that is developed by these people, do we have possession of it? Is it ours, or we're gonna have to pay them something down the road for something that they developed there?
Copyright or something.
Exactly, yeah, because we have run into that before.
Great question. That was one of the key questions that we asked as part of the follow-up interview. We wanted to ensure that we have ownership. For example, you're absolutely right. We do not own the font for our existing logo and had to work with a developer to create it after the fact. It is not the exact font. It's as similar as we can get. That was a key question. Will we retrieve editable deliverables of all the graphics, all of the type, the fonts, and any of those materials that they develop to support the implementation of that brand? And that was 100% assured to us that that would be included as part of that fee.
Okay, very good. I did notice, I mean, with 30 some, that had to be a bit of a surprise, I would think, to go through. So my compliments on the diligence that was involved in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I was really impressed with the report. It was professional. It aligned with our strategic plan for sure. I see the benefits far outweighing the cost. And I did a little bit of research with the city of Kingston, and I'm really impressed. They talk about sustainable tourism and long-term vision. So that really impressed me, that it's not just for the present, it's looking forward to the future. So it was great.
Thank you.
Impressed.
If I can just speak to that quickly, that was something that we actually just ran an event that presented the Kingston marketing strategy. And that was a key focus of that. And that's something we also stressed with the consultants. You know, we are a small municipality, we have limited resources, and we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is sustainable and long-term. So thank you. That certainly was a key factor.
Deputy Mayor Burton?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I was just going to echo what Councillor Young was saying about the report and the sustainability of the long-term vision. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And the one thing I noticed, you know, you look at all the different groups they've worked with. They've worked in this area, Kingston, North Grenville, United Counties, so they're familiar with the area, which is so important, right? You get someone from Toronto, they don't even know where Prescott is. So I think that's great and a good choice. So thank you for that. Any other questions? All right, seeing no further questions, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, next staff report is 97-2024, the recycling collection changes. Matt, this is all yours. Wish you could have had some of the phone calls that I had, but that's okay.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Yeah, I'll speak to that a little bit in the report. I'm guessing you know what the phone calls were about. So the Ontario government has made some changes to legislation within the province when it comes to recycling collection. So prior to starting next year, municipalities were required to fund their own recycling programs. There were grants available. Prescott was receiving about 50% of the total cost of its recycling program through the province of Ontario. However, beginning January 1st, the burden of responsibility and the cost shifts from municipalities instead to the organizations that produce products and packaging. This is similar to the way that tires have worked for a little bit in the province. So these producers are now responsible for funding and operating these programs. They've put together a not-for-profit company called Circular Materials that's funded by a number of the material producers. So in fact, in 2024, 127 communities transitioned from the municipal model to the producer model, and now another 182 will be making that transition next year. We are one of those 182 communities, and our switch will happen the 1st of January.
So Circular Materials has named the new collection agency for Prescott. So it's a company called Mterra Group. Currently, we use Limerick Environmental for both garbage collection and recycling collection. So Limerick's contract with the town of Prescott will end at the end of this year. And then Mterra Group will be taking over. In terms of shifts, when we come to this new company, they are moving the collection date from Thursday to Friday. So the big piece that as staff were asking for as much help from council as possible is getting that word out to the public that that date of collection will transition to Fridays. The rules of collection remain the same. In fact, part of the legislation is that the producers are required to mirror the municipal programs for the year of 2025. So all the rules remain the same. Day of the week changes, but we still have an alternating cycle of paper and then mixed containers. And so we'll produce a new calendar showing the shift to Friday, but that alternation will remain the same. So that's kind of the day of the week is the biggest change. I mean, the second biggest change would be cost savings. So this is going to save the town $54,800 compared to this year. That's the current spend this year on recycling programs. The entirety of that burden will be paid by the producers. Additionally, there are some reimbursement programs available to the municipality for producing new calendars and funding applications. So Prescott uses an app called Recycle Coach. So we're expected to receive about $300 back for that and another $700 back for the production of calendars. So about $1,000 we'll be hoping to collect from Circular Materials. The Mterra Group, the contractor that will be doing recycling collection, due to the current Canada Post strike, they're going to be delivering postcards door to door. In fact, last Thursday, they started delivering those postcards door to door. I'm guessing that may be what the phone calls were about. So we've asked them to make a pause on that. So they're going to be restarting that process Wednesday of this week. We wanted the opportunity for council to receive the information before we restarted that because yes, we recognize there'll be a lot of phone calls and emails that you receive with that information. And so the hope was to present this information and then we're going to start as the town, our social media campaign tomorrow and Wednesday, really start kind of putting the word out, updating websites, updating social media pages. And as I said, Mterra Group will be delivering those postcards beginning Wednesday. It's attached for information, but essentially it informs people about the switch to Fridays. It also points them to a website run by Circular Materials. So circularmaterials.ca/Prescott has information about the program. It also links to the documents on our site regarding calendars and applications and things like that. And it also provides a phone number and an email address specific to our collection agency, so to Mterra Group. That way, if there are questions specific to collection and what can be included and what can't, or people are looking to report a missed collection or something like that, we want to make sure that residents have a direct line and a direct email to our contractor. That sums it up.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions on this for Matt? Okay, well, hold on. Councillor McConnell, then Councillor Campbell, and Councillor Kirkby. Okay.
The odds are you're not going to be able to answer Matt. And I know this is going to sound pretty stupid, but I couldn't see the tag over there. You were sitting over there at our last meeting, and I just realized we've got Matt and we've got Matthew.
Did you just realize that?
It could get confusing. Anyway, no. In the past, when we have a holiday, for example, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, whatever, and it happens to fall on a garbage collection day, they just pick it up the next day. That really hasn't been a problem up till now because their collection is on Thursday and they pick it up Friday. Collection is Friday. What happens? Are they going to pick it up Saturday, or is people's garbage, or recycling box is going to be sitting out over the weekend. And in particular, we have light plastic blown around and paper blown around. Do you know what they are going to do there, or perhaps you can find out and get back to us, because that is a bit of a concern.
Yes, so we have asked this question. Tentatively, it looks like they're going to do Saturday collection on weeks that have a holiday. In fact, adding confusion to this transition from Thursday to Friday, the first day of the collection is occurring on a Saturday. So January the 4th, I believe, is the date. So yeah, part of the complication of it would be the very first collection is occurring on a Saturday. After that, it'll be Fridays after that. But from the early conversations we've had, their intention is to pick up Saturdays in the event of a holiday.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Through you, Mayor Shankar, do we have to break a contract with Limerick Environmental?
We do not.
No, are there year?
I'll pass to Matthew for the specifics.
Hi, guys. So we structured the contract knowing that January 1st was going to be our day of transition for recycling. So that part of the contract ends on January 1st and the waste contract will continue. We structured it that way for this very specific reason, and it will continue functioning as intended.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkby?
Through you, Mayor Shankar, just for, and I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it for anybody that potentially is confused that's watching the meeting. Emterra is only replacing Limerick for recycling, is that correct?
Correct.
Limerick will still hold the contract for garbage?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry, Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Matt, and I think we talked about this, but they're only going to pick up residential recycling, right? Like we don't know the impact yet for the mixed use businesses downtown.
Yeah, so we have a bit more conversation to be had to work out the specifics there, but our understanding is that it would only apply to residential units.
Okay.
So perhaps Matthew can speak to the specifics.
So we certainly realize that there's a lot of buildings downtown that have mixed use. And so we provided all the addresses with that, and for them to figure out, we can't figure out what's residential and what isn't. So our kind of feeling is they're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but anything that is a sole commercial use then should be responsible for their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that should work out then if they just mirror what we're doing now.
Yeah, I think, generally, I think that's kind of what we're looking at. We provide all the addresses that we currently collect at, and there is some residential buildings that have 6 or 7 units in their definition that might not qualify, but in ours it does. So we provide the address and say we provide that service now, and so we're expecting that they'll continue.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Young brings up a good point. So what do businesses do then about recycling?
So a great example is, let's say the pet light on Edward. So they're currently responsible for their own recycling. They contract with a company and have the recycling taken away. So that's currently how most industrial and commercial properties work. But certainly we do have that kind of not delineation in the downtown area.
Okay. We don't have anywhere where we're gonna collect it.
That's not our intention. We didn't provide that service before, and they'll only provide the service that was in place before.
So if a business wants Emterra to pick it up, they have to contact.
That's, yes, I would think that would be the way to do it. Certainly it's kind of out of our scope and has been out of our scope, but for some of those businesses like King Street, then delineating between one and the other is impossible.
Right. Uh-oh. Up like can of worms. Councillor Young.
I just wanted to make a comment because one thing I didn't realize when Matt was talking about that Recycle Coach application, I didn't even realize it's on our town website. And you can download it to your phone and it'll put like reminders in and everything, so you don't have to remember which day is paper and which day is plastic. So that was something new to me. So just so everybody knows it is available and it's on the town website.
If I may, that will continue in 2025, but in 2026, it will transition to a new application.
Excellent. McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. What about multi-residential? How does that work now?
So if it's over a certain number of units, usually it's 7, then the responsibility is of the building owner to do that. So good example is 171 King Street. They all have their own waste and recycling. That was the new building that was built on the Daniels lot. And so we went through all of our multi-residential properties and determined, are we providing that services now or not? And then provided that list to the contractor.
As I'm out walking my dog, I can't help but notice that the contractor that we have now is emptying larger apartment buildings, recycling, and I suspect they have made some kind of a deal with the apartment buildings to do so. If we haven't, it might be a good idea to provide the owners or managers of those apartments, so they're not left hanging at the end of the year with the name of our new recycler, and vice versa.
Okay.
Good. Council Byrne, you're good? Good, okay. All right, so that was just for information only, so we're gonna move along. Thank you, Matt, for that. Move along to 12.3, staff report 98-2024. Ooh. Regional Policing Subcommittee Leeds and Grenville Joint Services Committee. So the motion is that council consent to the addition of a regional policing subcommittee to study the possibility of developing a regional police force in Leeds and Grenville. And Matthew, you have this one.
Thank you very much. So this letter came from the United Counties and it came up through joint services and based on a motion put forward by one of the mayors. So what they wish to do is review regional policing and see the feasibility of it and what the impact would be. Putting it under joint services is somewhat unique in that it truly doesn't fall under that but if all the partners agree, and that's United Counties along with the city of Brockville, town of Gananoque and town of Prescott, then a subcommittee could be added under the joint services committee. The one thing that we did want to point out is that the United Counties currently is not a party to OPP servicing and policing. It's really a lower tier or single tier responsibility, and we would expect kind of a study to go down back to those lower tiers and single tiers for any determination of whether they wish to participate or not, if the decision is to move forward with a regional police force. So just wanted to make a couple of those points, but the recommendation is to agree to at least participate in it and see where it ends up. But also another point is likely it's going to require a consulting study. We don't know what the cost of that could possibly be. A few years ago, regional fire study was done for fire departments, and I think our share was somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $8,000. So we would expect that to be similar this time as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong?
To you, Mayor Shankar. I mean, this appeared earlier, I believe, in our information package, something like that. At the time, I spent some time looking at it, looking at different municipalities, mostly up north, where they're all still using OPP. You don't see many regional forces there. When I think of how the whole structure would shake out, it just doesn't seem feasible for a municipality like Prescott. I think that a regional police force would serve us any better than the current OPP, or the cost to be even comparable. You know, it could be maybe at the start, but I could see it skyrocketing once you include everything, which then may be harder to go back to the OPP. So I know the recommendation is for us to consent to the study, but myself, I feel like maybe it's a waste of good money. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Young, then Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I agree with Councillor Kirkby. I don't see enough information provided that leading us to think that we should spend some money on this. So I wouldn't be in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I think it's an interesting discussion to be had, but I'm not in favor of spending any money on this. I don't know as it's United Counties, as Matthew mentioned, it's in their bailiwick really. And I think rather than just having the approval of United Counties, Brockville, Gananoque, who also have their own police department right now, and us, that each individual municipality that would be taken in by this thing should be consulted directly and also have to have approval. And one police force that I'm going to take a wild guess is going to be running out of Brockville with the expansion of Brockville's police force, doing everything from Rideau Lakes to Cardinal, which is what the OPP does now, but I can't see it being served as well. Might be cheaper. I don't think it would be, but it might be cheaper, but I don't think we would be as well served. First of all, I don't think we would have a police station within the boundaries of the community, which we have now. The equipping a new police force would be horrendously expensive. I don't know where you would get the police then to begin with. So I agree with Justin and Tracy here, and I can't vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just so everyone knows, when they did bring this up, I did say that I would listen. I didn't say I'd open up the wallet. So that was news to me that it shouldn't be news to me that they're going to get a consultant, but so I'm fine with that. Then in that case, we'll call the question. Oh, still sorry.
There's no movement a seconder.
Oh, there was no movement in a second. Better get a move in a second there. Councillor Kirkby and Councillor Lockett. And now we'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried, or not carried, defeated. Thank you. So you saying carried. I'm gonna have to call John. That's everything. Thanks. All right, the last staff report for 2024, we only got 99 of them this year. Kept it under 100. It's the financial report and it's for information only. All right, everyone. Matthew, you've got this one.
Thank you very much. So a lot of significant changes between the last report and this one. Certainly from protective services, we're expecting one large building permit to come before the end of December in terms of payment. And that will make up the difference in protective services. Transportation from that revenue standpoint, we have now received our last two payments. So not expecting any concerns there. And environmental, I did note in the last couple of months, there was a decrease in the bag tags. But we have seen that returned back to a more normal number for October, I reviewed November, and it seems to have returned as well. So when we changed the rate at May first, there was a couple of businesses that made very, very large orders to secure the amount, their purchases at a lower rate and then sell it at a higher. And so we're now seeing that those depleted and then reordering occur. So not really any concerns from that standpoint. I think when I go through some of the other areas, we will be overspent on the our new arena. However, that has a lot to do with being open in August, and we do have significantly more revenue than we were expecting. So those two will offset each other. So I think those are kind of the highlights. As we did mention earlier, that in previous months, that we have seen a fair amount of cost in repairs for equipment this year, and we are taking a look to see if it's time to if any particular piece of equipment needs to be replaced sooner than later. And so that will be part of our 2025 project planning, as well as going forward into 26 to 20. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the financial report? Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. You mentioned, Matthew, the arena, the costs were higher, but again, the revenue is higher because we opened in August, I think it was. Last year we opened in mid-September, 1st of September. Yeah. So can you tell us between the 2 years, if you have that figure yet, is it worth our while dollar-wise to open the middle of August? Never mind our moral responsibility to people that use it, but just dollar-wise, was it worthwhile opening when we did, or would we be further off to wait till September?
So if we're looking at August in isolation, then absolutely, we were able to fill a large number of hours, including all of our prime time hours, as well as a large number during the day. So from a revenue perspective, absolutely, it was a month where it's exceeded the costs and especially variable costs in relation to running it. So absolutely, I would recommend that August is a good month to take a look at that. I think as we move forward into the budgeting process, we'll have a discussion around, what timing do we want to take a look at for opening this year, and what impact that has, because it did have a significant impact on our ability to maintain other facilities, as well as the grass and things like that in the parks. So we'd want to take a sober second look and really take a look at our summer staffing and be able to make sure that we can maintain that level of service that people expect and that people are due. And so that would be something that we want to take a look at this year for 2025.
Thank you. One other question, if I might. You mentioned that we've had above normal repair costs for some of our, so we would be looking at, does a street sweeper happen to be one of those?
Yes, so street sweeper is definitely high on the list. It certainly has been continuing to be problematic. Our most recent fix seemed to rectify itself on its way there, which was frustrating. So certainly wasn't working when it left here. Working when they went through the process there. Didn't find a whole lot wrong with it, to be perfectly honest. And so it continues to be a frustrating piece of equipment. So looking at alternatives, looking at the timing of when it would be best to take a look at that particular piece of equipment and determine how we move forward with that.
Thank you. I don't think you were here when that was bought, were you? Yeah. Okay. Well, I pointed out at the time that from the description of that vehicle, it looked to me like it'd been in a major accident and repaired, because some of the new parts that were on the list, and I'm just telling this for the benefit of the new people, were, if I remember correctly, a windshield and a hood and a drum, things that do not wear out on a normal basis. So when you have a major accident on something, you never know what's going to happen down the road, how it's going to be affected. So I think if we are encountering problems with that, and I think we have been for a while, that should be looked at as moving down the road and getting another one.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. All right, we do have part of our budget tonight is on the health and social services. So we have a PowerPoint presentation. Matthew, the floor is yours.
So we're going to go through the timelines, health services and social services. So tonight, as I just mentioned, we're health and social services. When we come back in January on the 13th, we'll go through the administrative and protective services, as well as a review, initial review of the project list. So just as a reminder, I will send it out again this week, but if you haven't responded yet with your ideas for 2025, then please do so. I believe it's due. When we take a look at health services, it includes the health unit, the paramedic services in the cemetery. The health unit is obviously combining and what will be a larger catchment area. And Councillor Lockett was sitting on the public health unit board, and that will change as of January 1st. When we take a look at paramedic services, that's provided by the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. Our share of the $11.5 million that was not covered by the province was $303,000 to 2024, and Mayor Shankar sits on the Joint Services Committee. And then we have the Prescott Cemetery, also known as the Sandy Hill Cemetery, and that was brought under our auspices in 2011. In 2016, we passed a bylaw to establish the Board of Management. And in the last few years, we've been providing $14,000 per year. One of the things that we mentioned in our last meeting is the fact that we're now starting to focus on the repair of headstone and monuments, which will be a multi-year project. And certainly something that we should take a look at, increasing the funding amount to the cemetery to ensure that those types of repairs, as well as the continued increase in the cost of operating and maintaining the cemetery is fully covered. And Councilor McConnell sits on the cemetery board. So when we take a look at public health services, we're assuming a 10% increase for the public health levy. We haven't received any information on that, and we expect that with the merger, there will be a little bit of time before they determine exactly what that's going to look like. But we have 10% sitting there at this moment. Paramedic services, again, we're assuming 10%. We do have a meeting with the United Counties next week, just the treasurers to kind of go through where their first draft of 2025 is. And we look forward to being able to update council in January as that information becomes available. And also, as mentioned earlier, increasing the levy or the amount that the town supports the cemetery, going from 14,000 to 20,000 to cover maintenance activities. So overall, that would be an increase of approximately $45,000 or 10% change. When we take a look at social services, that includes Ontario Works, which is run through Joint Services, St. Lawrence Lodge, Children's Services, as well as community housing. So for this particular one, for the Ontario Works program, it's 50% based on caseload, 50% based on weighted property. So of the $2.5 million that isn't covered by the Ontario government, our portion last year was $129,000. And again, Mayor Shankar sits on Joint Services. When we take a look at St. Lawrence Lodge, that's an agreement between the United Counties as well as the three single-tier municipalities of Brockville, Gananoque, and Prescott. Our 2022 allocation for supporting the operation was $183,000. 2023 was $203,000. You remember that last year they came up with an initial allocation of $379,000, which was then reduced to $277,000. So what we did in the 2024 budget is put that 102,000 aside into a reserve. So even if there is an increase of 35% in the 2025 levy for St. Lawrence Lodge, we will be able to reduce that transfer to reserve and be able to absorb that increase. We're certainly not hoping that will be the increase for 2025, but certainly if it was to be that high, then there wouldn't be any effect on the going into 2025 for being able to cover that amount.
Can I just stop you in there? Did you assume 35% because that's what it was from 23 to 24?
Basically, so it's 36%, and so assumed that if it was going to be increasing that much again, we certainly would suggest that it should be increasing by that much, but it just shows you the order of magnitude that we would be able to cover without having to affect the bottom line.
Yeah, hopefully they don't come in at 35%.
That is certainly the hope.
Okay.
And then we also have cost sharing for childcare, and of 719,000, the province doesn't cover. Town of Prescott is 51,000 levy. And then we also have community housing, which is simply based on weighted property assessment. The allocation of the 6.1 million that's not covered by the province was 162,000 for Prescott in 2024. So we again take a look at those. Ontario Works, we're assuming is going to go up by 10%. Children's Services as well as community is going up by 10%. And as I mentioned, even if we have a 35% increase in the levy, we would be able to absorb that in the St. Lawrence Lodge budget by reducing the amount that's going into reserve. We would still be putting $5,132 into reserve, and that's as a result of the 102,000 that amount that we had in 2024. So all told, we go up based on about 34,000 or 3.6% of the total for those budgets. So when you take a look at those two together, and this is about 10% of our total budget, we'd be going from about 1.78 million to 1.456 million, or an increase of about 80,000 or 5.7%. And of all of those budgets, $5,132 would go into reserve. So I'll kind of stop there and just see if there's any questions. Obviously, there's a lot of assumptions and things, but what we're trying to drive home, in particular on the St. Lawrence Lodge one, is that we do have some flexibility by keeping the amount that we had originally received in the budget for 2024, which allows us some flexibility in 2025. You, Councilor Burton, has another question?
Oh, did she?
I do.
Wow, good eye. Go ahead, Councilor Byrne.
Thank you. Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was on the cemetery board way back when, my last term, I believe, I remember that we stopped asking for the town at 14,000 and we went a lot less. Can you just confirm that? Because I think that the cemetery board hasn't asked for 14,000 in a few years.
So you're partially correct. Previously, between 2016 and sometime in the early 20s, they had an allocation of $20,000. What they were finding is that year over year, that they weren't spending that whole amount, and it was just simply going into reserve. So they reduced the amount to 14,000, and that has been the case for at least the last 4 years. And now with the increase in costs, as well as a renewed focus on repairing those monuments and headstones, then returning to the 20,000 is kind of what is going to be being put forward.
Okay, thank you. I did know that it was around 14, but you're saying that it was a little bit higher, and then we moved it down to 14,000. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what okay, thank you.
So in terms of the next ones that we'll be covering is administration and protective services, and again, that'll be on January 13th. Thank you.
Matthew, I hate to beat a dead horse in there, but the St. Lawrence Lodge, just explain that to me just real quickly. You said assuming a 35% increase in levy offset by decrease in transfer to reserve of an equal amount. So do we have to make up that difference that we usually put in reserve at some point?
No, so the creation of the reserve was by passing the budget based on our initial request of 379,000. They then came back a couple of months later and said, now that we know what our provincial funding is, the allocation is less than that by 102,000. So the decision at the time by council was to say, okay, we've already passed the budget, we've already passed the property tax rates and that sort of thing. We will put that difference into a reserve of 102,000. So it is the first time when we're creating a reserve in relation to St. Lawrence Lodge, and then that's given us some flexibility going forward. Now, in terms of at the end of 2024, one of the debt payments will come due and will end, and the net amount of that will start going into a reserve for future major repairs and replacements. Okay. At the end of 2025, the second of the two will end, and then that whole amount will be going into reserve going forward. So that, St. Lawrence Lodge is now 20 years old. Things such as roofs, HVAC units, elevators, all of those types of building systems really start to show their age once you hit the 20-year mark and going forward. And so we expect some significant asks. And so putting those debt payments into a separate reserve to be able to support those asks as well as a future eventual redevelopment, which is hard to think of when it's only 20 years old, but the previous lodge was built in the 70s and replaced in, or I think it was actually built in maybe the 50s or 60s and then replaced in the early 2000s. So you see an indication that those might build it, but certainly something that we have to plan for long term.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because I was confused as to what we had in reserves and for that, but that makes more sense because I knew that when the loan stops, we're going to create a reserve. Gotcha. Is there some way, I have a little note here that somewhere in our budget process, we can see what we have in reserves?
Yes, so absolutely. I think Councilor O'Connell also would like to spend some time on that. As we get into the project budget as well as through various different areas, then we'll start to show you exactly where do our reserves sit, what are the contributions planned for 2025, and then as we start working through the project side of it, what are going to be some of the expenses to those reserves in 2025? Where does that leave us at the end of 25?
Very good. Thank you. On that.
Thank you. If I may just maybe add a little bit to your information there. When I was on the board of St. Lawrence Lodge under the previous Liberal government, the word came down that we had to start putting money aside for redevelopment. Now, I don't know if that's continued under the Conservative government or not, but as we started to do that, unfortunately, it got taken by union negotiations and contract settlements. But it is conceivable we have to set aside money for redevelopment of our own sewage treatment plant these days. So it is likely that if that isn't the word, it will be at some point in the future. So it only makes sense for us, and I'm glad Matthew's taken this tact to do that and to do it actually here so we have some control over it. But it wouldn't surprise me at a certain date that we will get a notification from St. Lawrence Lodge that if we're doing that, we have to provide them with the amount that we're setting aside so that they can keep track of it. But we're better off to have it here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For sure. For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Councilor Campbell?
Just for your comment, Councilor McConnell. So our reserve of 102,000 is is it relegated to St. Lawrence Lodge or is it for medical or whatever we want to call it?
So council can make a decision on, in terms of how they spend that amount in 2024 as well as future amounts. That was the recommendation following last week's meeting, that the amount for the Prescott Family Medical Association as well as physician recruitment, that it be supported by that amount.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Matthew. Next is resolution. So 13.1 is the municipal significant event, the Eastern Ontario Senior Hockey League. So the motion is that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott recognize the Eastern Ontario Senior Hockey League All-Star event taking place on January 11, 2025 as one of a municipal significance, as it is taking place at a municipal facility and will bring visitors to the community. Do we need, who's going to talk about this?
So through you, Mayor Shaker. This has been done in the past, if you'll recall, for the Las de Leo event, as an SOP. Now I can't think of what that acronym is.
Standard operating procedure?
No. Special occasion permit, thank you. Does require, if you're non-charitable, that you have a letter or a motion from municipal council stating that the event is of municipal significance. So if council passes this resolution will be sent to the organizers and then it'll be attached to their SOP. That then has to be gone through the province for applying for that permit so that they can have their event.
Okay, thank you. Before we discuss it, let me just get a mover and a seconder. So Councillor Kirkby and Deputy Mayor Burton, thank you. All right, now if we have any questions of Ms. Velkin. Oh, look at this.
Through you, Shaker. Lindsay, what is the cost again for them to get the license through the Prescott? Is there a cost? Do we charge a cost? Because this is not a group that's not for profit. They're going to make profit here at our facility. Yep, go ahead.
So through you, Mayor Shankar. So the costs that do the town of Prescott is all done through the province. So they apply, but then to do it, there's different requirements the province requires when for a liquor license and for this special occasion permit in order to have it and to make the process a little easier. This is what is required.
So there's no special event charge that the town charges for events that are for profit like this, because that's the main difference that I see here with the last at the Leo, right? Or even when we did one for the Leo Boyden Showcase, all money raised came back to the town, or in some form came back to the town, where this is a for-profit event that is being hosted at the ACCC. And it just, I'm all for it, but at the same time, it'd be nice if there was a bit of fee charged to it, other than just the rental of the arena, I guess. I guess maybe that's a discussion for another day, but just something to think about.
Okay. Councillor McConnell?
Justin's right, and I had that same thought, because it seems to me that if somebody's running a bar, there's going to be some extra cleaning involved with our staff. And I'm not opposed to it, like Justin, but I think there should be something in the way of a fee attached that comes to the town for running a bar in our facility. The other thing I wanted to ask, I know if you're operating a bar, you have to have I forget what it's actually called, but a server's license, smart serve, that's it, yeah. Insurance wise, this is a bar, people are drinking, and it's not like too many people are going to be walking to our rink. People are going to be driving away from it as well. What is the insurance? Do they have to have insurance for the bar, or does our insurance kind of kick in? I don't know how that works.
Who answers that?
So in terms of the actual functionality, that sort of thing, AGCO is very particular in the organization having to have insurance, and how they operate, smart serve requirements, as well as some of the additional requirements by the town in terms of different areas that can and can't be, as well as in this particular case, having security, those types of things at the arena, which will be adorned by the bar operator. So really, from an insurance perspective, that's on the responsibility of the organization running it. And then the town will have some other requirements in terms of costs that they'll have to incur for security, as well as the extra cleaning, things like that. So certainly we'll have that conversation with our organizer and be able to move those forward.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So
Councilor Chris?
sorry, through you, Mayor Shaker, on food, because the one big thing is that they have to have food available. Are they offering food, or are we ensuring that the canteen will be open for the entirety?
We'll be covering that with the organizers and ensure that what's required is there.
Perfect, thank you.
Very good. Seeing no further discussion, we're going to call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, we got a whole bunch of nuns on here. No bylaw, no new business, no notice of motions, no proclamation. Geez, I was looking forward to reading the 3 pages. Any media? No media, okay. So we're gonna have a motion to move into closed session at 7:17 PM to discuss matters pertaining to approval of closed session minutes, board appointments, and a purchase and sale. So the CAO treasurer, director of administration, and clerk, economic development officer, and deputy clerk remain in the room. Where are you going? All right, can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Lockett, Councillor Young, all in favor? Great, we'll take a couple minutes and then we'll be ready.